the under-collection is not only attributable to the underperformance of the economy, but also owes to some challenges with regard to tax administration. And so it's not something new that we are saying today. We've been saying that, we've been repeating that statement. We do want to get to the bottom of the challenges. I don't think we should establish a commission with an intention of pointing fingers. Otherwise, we're going to undermine it from the outset. As I said, both the Commissioner and I were concerned that we need to undertake this process in order to try and get to the bottom of the issues, and if there are any recommendations which must be made to the SARS, they will then be made and we will implement them.
That was an excerpt from Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba, who yesterday was speaking after a South African Airways media briefing. Now, President Jacob Zuma has agreed to set up an urgent judicial inquiry into tax administration and governance at the South African Revenue Services, or SARS. SARS Commissioner Tom Moyane has also been informed and will fully cooperate with this inquiry. Still to be announced is when the inquiry will happen and which judge will preside over it. Neither the Finance Ministry or SARS are commenting at the moment, but joining us in studio to discuss this further is Wayne Duvenake. He's from the organisation Undoing Tax Abuse, or OUTA. Wayne, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Nice to be there.
All right, so apparently you have commented that the ministers need to institute an inquiry will not overcome the problems, including a silent tax revolt. What do you mean by this, and by whom?
Well, first of all, I don't think we need an inquiry. We need to remove Tom Moyane. He is central to the problems at SARS. Ever since he's been there, we've taken this country down into its worst situations as regards tax compliance and tax collections. We really need to get to the bottom of why the rogue unit, or so-called rogue unit, was removed. Why has Tom Moyane purged the talent and laying the charges against Pravin Gordhan at the time when he was there, well, while he's still there, the Makwakwe situation, bringing back people that should really not be part of that organisation. And I think you'll find that there is a silent tax revolt. What I mean by silent tax revolt is people are doing as much as they can to frustrate the tax system. And the reason for that is that with all the non-compliance from government's point of view and what's going on in SARS, people are getting frustrated about their tax money being wasted by government.
And trying to find every which way to not pay tax.
Yeah, they will frustrate, yes, exactly. And I guess the real message we've got to send out is we don't really want to live in a country where there is a full-blown tax revolt. I can assure you, you cannot recover from that. And it's very difficult to manage. So this call for a tax revolt, we believe, is not a rational one, but you will find targeted tax revolts like the e-tolls matter, like licenses and so forth. And we've got to be very careful where those are justified because of an irrationality around those taxes, but a full-blown tax revolt is very, very impossible. And what I think Minister Gigaba is trying to do is really just mask the issues and almost paint a picture to the investment houses and the ratings agencies that we're looking into matters and we'll get to the bottom of the issues. But the real issues is leadership.
Yeah, and that's the issue that we need to talk about, because what I'm gathering from you is that an inquiry is not the best way to solve SARS's problems.
It's not going to get to the bottom of these issues. We can go very quickly to the nub of the real problems. If Minister Gigaba was serious about SARS's problems, he would engage with civil society, he'd engage with a number of people in the know, Dennis Davies, Judge Dennis Davies and others. In fact, what he should do is get in touch with the talent that Tom Moyane has purged. Get hold of Ivan Pillay, get hold of Adrian Lekay, Johan van Lochenberg, get hold of these individuals who added so much value to that organisation and find out from them what they should be doing at SARS. But unfortunately, there's this political meddling. What really needs to happen is an investigation into the President's own tax affairs. And I think the real investigation needs to be turned onto the other side of the tax equation, and that is, how is government spending taxpayers' money? That's where we need a real and serious and deep inquiry, because it is in that squandering, the maladministration and corruption that's taking place in expenditure that's giving rise to the problems on the collection side as well.
So obviously we've heard from Tom Moyane saying that he is willing to cooperate in any which way. He will fully cooperate with this inquiry. Are you convinced, though? Because, I mean, when you look at Tom Moyane himself, perhaps he's the one who needs to be investigated alongside the president, as you mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. We believe that he is central to the problem. And of course he's going to say he's going to cooperate. And I think the public are not going to be convinced that this inquiry is meaningful and that it is sincere and it's going to achieve what it sets out to achieve, or claims to set out to achieve.
Yeah, I mean, we had Jacques Zuma sitting on this couch almost just 24 hours ago. He's written a book that has spoken a lot about the crisis at SARS and tax level, and you know, pointing fingers at our president, saying that his taxes are not up to date, and there's a lot missing, and there's a lot of foul play happening like that. I mean, obviously, this announcement that we heard yesterday about this inquiry has been met with some skepticism. What do you think the chances that this inquiry can be a success, and how can it actually be structured to become a success?
Well, again, I think if they're going to do it seriously, as I said, let's meet with the people that are meaningful. In fact, I would go so far as to say Jacques Zuma has done the inquiry for the minister already. Read the book, Minister. Tom Moyane, read the book. If you want to take action against Jacques Zuma, don't shoot the messenger, as he says. Engage with him, engage with organizations like OUTA and Johan van Lochenberg, as I said, the people that will give you a lot of the answers that you're looking for. Look meaningfully and deeply at the real issues and don't mask this. So, yeah, I mean, I just, if it's going to be another farce, then let's not waste our time. Because it's just not necessary.
Your organisation obviously has uncovered and looked into this as well, at the irregularities at SARS. And what are some of the most profound things you found, and will this be included into the inquiry, do you think?
Yeah, well, what we want is transparency. We want to know how it is possible that people who've been suspended for a year on serious transgressions are reinstated in the organisation, such as Makwakwa, one of his direct subordinates. We need to know what is happening with the money that is going on. Why is there the shortfall? Is the shortfall at 50 billion rand? Is it more? Some say there's a lot more. The shortfall in collection is going to be much higher than the 50 billion rand that is indicated. There are processes that need to be investigated, and the lack of the talent. There are huge gaps in the required staff numbers and expertise that are needed to run SARS efficiently and effectively. It was a well-run and they executed their processes extremely well in the past. That doesn't seem to be happening right now. And you've got to look right to the person at the top who's leading it. Why is that the case? And what is happening with his own affairs. But I think the inquiry, as we said, Minister Gigaba needs to go onto the other side. How are we spending this money?
Yeah, that's the question I was going to ask you. I mean, that really needs to be looked at. How are we spending
more than anything
this money?
else needs to be looked at. What is happening with our taxpayers' money in the expenditure in the various departments? How are we allocating those funds? I mean, just the other day, the minister said that we should look at stopping projects that shouldn't go ahead because we don't have money. And yet we're building an N2 Wild Coast, a whole new road, which is going to cost probably 12 billion rand. It's not necessary. If they didn't go ahead with that project, nothing would happen to the economy. It's not going to be impacted negatively in the Eastern Cape. And yet they want to forge ahead with these massive bridges costing 1.3 billion rand each. That's just one example. There are many other examples around the country where the minister could go right now and save this country billions if he's meaningful about the expenditure. And what's happening with the misspending and the maladministration and corruption that's taking place, people are getting frustrated and making Tom Moyane and SARS's job very difficult. And they will continue to do so as they go down this silent tax revolt journey that we go. And we don't need this for this country right now.
While I've got you here, obviously there was an announcement about e-tolls yesterday as well, scrapping for the last 5 years. Anyone that owes anything under 500 rand, that's a write-off of, what, 3.6 billion rand.
Yeah.
Your reaction reaction to this?
Well, so Sanral's financials came out. Last year they didn't write off any of the ETOL debt. We said that they have a problem with that because they're realizing revenue or showing revenue in their books which they're not going to collect. And we challenged them on that, and exactly they realized that this year they have to write off some of that debt. So 3.6 billion rand has been written off. Last year that debt of ETOL stood at about 7.5 billion rand. So I think it's a very clear indication that they cannot and will continue to struggle to collect the ETOL money. Less than, around about 1 in 5 people, certainly less than 1 in 4 are paying ETOL. So the scheme has failed as a user-pay scheme, and hopefully Minister Gigaba will come to his senses, and Joe Masanganye, the Minister of Transport, and pull the plug on this absolutely irrational and defunct scheme.
I mean, what does this mean for people that have been paying e-tolls all along? Because
well,
obviously, as you say, 1 in 4, so that there are some people that are paying. I mean, will they ever see that money again? And is this probably maybe an admission saying, you know what, I'm going to cancel this?
I think a lot of people who have been paying are now going to say enough's enough. Why should I pay? And they're having to write off this debt. So we're going to see less compliance now. The only few people that are paying are a number of the corporates who don't want to cross swords with government, the car rental industry, and I think they're even going to start capitulating and saying, look, this is meaningless. We've been trying to make it work. It doesn't work. It is administratively burdensome, it's very costly, and you can't have some people paying and most people not paying. It's not going to work.
Just finally, as we wrap up this interview, and I think many South Africans very concerned at a time like this, and of course we're leading into December. There's the leadership conference coming up. There is going to be a shift and change in leadership in the coming years. But this current leadership that we're looking in, do you think that there needs to be a huge investigation into what is going on, and having a look at, you know, particularly what's been revealed, and into perhaps the president's financial status with regard to SARS, with regard to his taxes, and regard to all of these other things we're talking about?
Yeah, look, as you said, the big inquiry needs to happen into that space. Our leadership under President Zuma has hijacked this country, have run roughshod over due process, and have literally bought this ratings downgrades, and our performance and our prosperity as a nation has suffered under his leadership. Since 2009, the modus operandi of state capture was very clear. The revaluation of assets in state-owned institutions where they could go and get big borrowings to put in big projects, and that is where the tenderpreneurship and corruption has been taking place. If you look at all the trends and all the SOEs, and we've done that evaluation. So we're saying do a meaningful investigation there and on this leadership. This leadership needs to change, and we need to get leadership in place that is going to take this country forward and hopefully salvage the ruling party, because otherwise it's not going to make it to the next elections. But our biggest concern, Leanne, is this setting in of this despondency, this frustration, and almost this depression, this syndrome of what can we do, we can't fix this country. We don't want the nation's psyche to settle into that space of hopelessness and giving up. We believe that corruption can be fought. We can turn this country around. It's an incredible nation with its diversity and beauty. We can salvage and get out of this quagmire, but we need to believe that, and we need to fight hard, and we need to hold those people to account. And we will get there. It will take time. But we mustn't give up, and we mustn't run away, because we will salvage this.
All right, Wayne Duvenet, thank you very much for talking to us here on the programme. Wayne is from OUTA, discussing SARS and other issues, as well as focusing on that inquiry that was announced yesterday by our Finance Minister, Malusi Gigaba, into SARS.